We're going to do it here in Texas. So I will not delay our program. We will come forward with our speakers. All right. So next.
Here today to stand with so many social justice warriors and so many organizations who have countless organized through the last 6 or 7 months of this year. I know it has not been easy. I want to also acknowledge all of the state representatives, state senators who have came and joined us today, as well as my pastor, none other than Dr. Freddie D. Haynes III of Friendship West Baptist Church. Y'all give him a hand. Also, I want to thank the co-founder of Black Voters Matter, Latasha. Hey, let me tell you, anybody that want to travel to Texas and come down here and help us fight, I always ask them. So various organizations in the next 30 days, because we have a governor that does not know what humanity looks like, does not have a fiber in his bones. And yet at the end of the day, if you're trying to look for understanding in his agenda, then you're looking at the wrong place, because nothing makes sense, right? We talk about voter suppression, but let's go further. Critical race theory, I don't know what it is. I've been on the front lines and I don't even know what critical race theory is, but I'm going to tell you a little bit of thing about it. They say critical race theory is things that we talk about when we talk about in school district racial equity. But if racial equity is a problem for the state of Texas, then we need to fight back, standing together, united. And yet at the end of the day, we even go farther with an agenda to find a way to find a worthless border wall. A border wall that is impeding on the rights of citizens and people who have paid for their property. And yet at the end of the day, it ignores the fact of this simple thing. They say protecting the border wall, but you know, I'm born and raised in Dallas, Texas, and in the last 20 years, I've noticed that people have been building tunnels underground. So I don't know what your wall is going to do for those tunnels that they're building under the wall, since you're saying that we're trying to protect our border from such a thing. No, what you're doing is you're trying to put an agenda that has created a chaos, a fear-mongering tactic that has created chaos, that has drove thousands of people, misled people to the ballot to vote for a man named
back, how they abuse their power to ignore a lethal pandemic that has taken the lives of more than 50,000 Texans. And right now, our vaccine rate is right at 40%. We've plateaued, and the COVID-19 is beginning to spread again because Greg Abbott doesn't know how to manage a pandemic. That's what we ought to be focused on. And who does that hurt the most? It hurts the same people that these vote suppression laws hurt. You noticing a pattern? And, of course, we have a problem keeping the lights on in this state. We've learned this year. We can't have an electric grid that says when it gets cold, the heat goes out, and when it gets hot, your air conditioning goes out. We have to be able to keep the power on for the people of Texas and grow our economy. How are we going to grow our economy? Why are businesses going to continue to come here if we can't even keep the power on? That's what Greg Abbott ought to be focused on, not on his next primary election, not on pandering to Donald Trump and his extremist base. He ought to be working for the people of Texas. Democrats in the Texas House are going to raise these issues every single day that we're here and do all we can to focus on the issues that matter to the people of Texas. Now, I want to introduce a good friend and a leader in our House Democratic Caucus from Bexar County, from San Antonio, Representative Trey Martinez-Fisher.
Thank you, Chris. Texas Democrats, we're not afraid.
No, we're not.
We're here. We're here because we know the eyes of the nation are watching every single move of what's occurring here in Texas. It's not lost on me or anybody up here that it took the courage of a president from the state of Texas and Lyndon Baines Johnson to pass the Voting Rights Act in 1965. And here we are today, page after page after page is being ripped out of that federal law, and the voices of voters are being silenced all across this country. Republicans have silenced voices in Georgia. Then they had marched to Florida. They silenced voices there. When Republicans were done in Arizona, 40,000 Latinos fell off the voter registration rolls. And now the Republicans are knocking on the door in our state of Texas. And these Democrats, hardworking men and women up here, who, by the way, don't do this for a living. We do this for a passion. We do it because it's our calling. You're not going to force a voting suppression bill down our throats and expect us to take it. We will fight. We will fight. We will fight. And we will continue to fight. And our message is very simple and very, very clear to Governor Abbott and all the Republican leaders. To borrow a phrase from them, when it comes to messing with Texas voters, come and take it. Come and take it. Because that's what it's going to take. This party, this caucus is united. The country is watching. While we do our work inside that building, you do your work outside this building. Hold us to account, every single member. Make no assumptions. Make sure that we are all committed to this cause. And then in your spare time, call your member of Congress, call your United States Senator, call Senator Manchin, call Senator Sinema, and let them know that we need a national response for federal voting rights in this country, and we need it now. So we have work to do. We want your prayers. We want your support. We want you to understand that we are here for you. Don't give up on us. We're not going to give up on you. So let me introduce a person who's always had my back when times get tough. Somebody who is not afraid to stand up for what she believes in. Somebody who fights with conviction every single day. She comes from Tarrant County, from Fort Worth. She's the chair of our Texas Legislative Black Caucus. Please give me a round of applause for Representative Nicole Collier.
Thank you, my friend. And I'm here today with my House Democratic colleagues and members of the Texas Legislative Black Caucus. I see Representative Reynolds has joined us, Representative Tony Rhodes, Representative Jasmine Crockett, Representative Cheryl Cole, Representative Retta Bowers, are all here today because we stand in solidarity. We have unity today. I want to start with a quote from the theologian Dietrich Bonhoeffer. He said, "Silence in the face of evil is itself evil. God will not hold us guiltless. Not to speak is to speak. Not to act is to act. And so we are here because we will not be silent. Friends, we will not back down, we will not back out, and we will not back up. Because we're defiant. We will defy the push to suppress our votes. Because we believe in protecting the right to vote for all Texans. But let me tell you something. Black Americans are no stranger to the efforts to suppress us. But we rise. We rise just registration. We have to sign up 30 days before the election. Voting should not be that hard. We don't need to give more power to partisan poll workers, criminalize minor mistakes. We don't need to add a bunch of red tape just to the voting process. In fact, soon it'll be easier to carry, open carry, than it is to vote in Texas. Last week, I joined my colleagues in Washington, D.C., and we asked Congress to pass the For the People Act and the John Lewis Voting Rights Act. I and 4 of my legislative colleagues, we sat down with Senator Manchin, and we looked him in his eyes, and we told him, if you don't act, if Congress does not act, millions of Texans will be left vulnerable and subject to the continued assault on our right to vote. But today, we affirm that we will continue to work to preserve our precious right to vote and dare those who are hell-bent on taking away from us to come and take it. Because we won't back down. We won't back up.
How's everybody doing? First, I want to say Happy Father's Day. This is your day too. I'm here with my daughter Francesca and Camilla in the back. We walked out of this house proudly, but it was the equivalent of crawling back in Washington, D.C. Give us federal voting rights relief, and let's do it now. And I'm so proud. When we descended on our nation's capital, and when we were walking the building, we said to ourselves, this isn't that hard. If only we had one of our own in the United States Senate, things would be different. Because meeting after meeting after meeting, senators from across this country said, I did not know you couldn't vote by mail in a pandemic in Texas. They said, I didn't know you couldn't leave work in order to vote. Because in our states, we let people vote. In our states, the more people that vote, democracy wins. That is what we're fighting for here in Texas. And so now, this is a very big week. We don't have a filibuster, but we used our walking filibuster to bring this attention. We are here right now because we do need it for the People Act. We do need it now. This is a big week in the country. Call our, make those phone calls, make your voices, be engaged, because we will change the face of voting rights in America, but it's going to be done here because Texas is leading. Thank you very much for everything you're doing. That's right, let us vote, let us vote. Representative Chris Turner. Thank you. Sure. How y'all doing? Wow, what a crowd.
but I can't see to the end of it. This is amazing. Beto, thank you. Thank you, Power of my people, for putting this together. This is amazing. Listen, I want to, my name is Chris Turner. I'm the chair of the Texas House Democratic Caucus. And if I have one thing I want you to remember today, the way we defeated the voter suppression bills in the Texas legislature is Democrats were unified team effort. Every played an important role. So thank those representatives and senators when you see them. And several of them are here today, and I just want to call their names real quick because they deserve recognition for all their work. Representatives Jessica Gonzalez, Michelle Beckley, Trey Martinez Fisher, Jasmine Crockett, Gina Enosa, Nicole Collier, Barbara Gervin Hawkins, Donna Howard, Alex Dominguez, Richard Raymond, Christina Morales, Terry Mesa, Marianne Perez, Celia Israel, Aaron Zwiener, Penny Morales Shaw, Liz Campos, and we're also joined by Senator Royce West. And if you're a representative and I forgot your name, or if I didn't see you here, shout it out right now. I think I got everybody. All right. Listen, I'm going to just leave you with this. There's a lot of talk in Washington, D.C. right now about how to do what needs to be done, pass H.R. 1, the For the People Act, and H.R. 4, the John Lewis Voting Rights Act. And when I had the opportunity to talk with some senators last week, including Senator Manchin, I know that there's real desire to do something on a bipartisan basis, and I respect it, and I told them that. But I said, what I need y'all to understand and recognize, the Republicans in this building right here are not interested in doing anything on a bipartisan basis, suppressing the vote of Texas voters. They have one mission. It is to make it harder for people to vote so they can hang on to power, so they can continue to deny health care to our citizens, so they can continue to underfund education, and they can continue to keep minimum wage at $7.25 an hour. That is what this is about. That is why we have got to vote, and we got to fight these voter suppression bills, and that is why we need Congress to act now, pass the John Lewis Voting Rights Act, and pass For the People Act. So, it's my privilege now to bring up two great leaders from our state. Dr. Hinojosa, give him a warm welcome.
Hello, Texas, how are you? I'm Carla Braley, and I'm with the Texas Democratic Party, and I am so glad I'm here with you. Wouldn't want to be any other place today. I do have my daughter and her friend because democracy is at stake, and I want her to be able to see what we all 5 days of the year it takes us to protect our vote. W. Du Bois told us in the 20th century that the problem of the 20th century was the color line. It was racism. Shortly after that, years after that, Barbara Jordan told us that in order for the economic political education, all of them are under attack now. And I tell you, if we don't stand today, then when Richards told us that they can dress it up with and a pig. What do I mean by that? We had slave laws. I'm going to bring up our chairman because Texas.
Thank you, Vice Chair.
Today's Father's Day, right? Father's Day today, all the family members, and let them come because it was a... Today is Father's Day for me, but I got to celebrate Father's Day 3 weeks ago. I was on the phone on the 30th, and I was talking to her. Is growling and mad and really, and I called a couple of times after that, didn't hear her, she wouldn't return the phone call. I went to sleep, woke up at 5:30 in the morning, turned on my phone, and lo and behold, they had walked. And that was Father's Day present 3 weeks earlier. My daughter was right there with all these state representatives who are the heroes of the state of Texas. They started a movement all across America, a movement that had not gotten fire yet. They had passed voter suppression laws in Florida. We couldn't do anything about it. They had passed voter suppression laws all over the country. Republicans are rolling over our people. Texas, we Johnson, right after the Selma brutality, where hundreds and thousands of Americans who were marching for their right to vote, and when he came out the next day, he got this fundamental right that they were protesting for. And he said this: they did this in the name of the right to vote, the most fundamental all over the world. They stand as guardians of our liberty, risking their lives. We have soldiers all over the world, people who have fought, who came back from wars wounded, both physically and mentally, who many did not come. And they did that because they wanted to ensure that every single American had the right to be able to decide who their leaders were. And these people over here on the other side are trying to stop us from doing that. And that is wrong. That is un-American, and that is against our democracy. So let's go out there and fight, win this fight, make sure that we meet the challenge that these brave soldiers, men and women who have fought for us all over the world, presented us with. God bless each and every one of y'all.
Mi nombre es García, me acompaña mi hija Carolina Isabel. Somos miembros activas del Proyecto de Defensa Laboral. Defensa Laboral es una organización estatal dedicada a generar poder para los trabajadores de salarios bajos e inmigrantes en Texas para lograr mejor.
Hello, my name is. This is my mom. I'm Isabel Garcia, and I am a proud member of Worker Defense Action Fund. Workers Defense is a statewide organization dedicated to building power for low-wage workers and immigrants across Texas to win better working conditions.
Nuestras comunidades deben que se escuchen en las urnas. Por eso hoy estamos aquí reunidos para demostrar que unidos hacemos poder. Y unidos podemos lograr grandes cambios.
Our communities must be able to build political power and make our voices heard. That's why we are here today, to show that when we are united, we make powerful changes.
Trabajadores de Comunicación en América es uno de nuestros socios en el movimiento laboral. Clown Cumming es el presidente del Distrito 6 y defensor de los derechos civiles, Coalición Sindicalistas Negras y del Instituto de Feeling Radios.
Cloud Cummings CWA Coalition Trade Union and the Institute.
Por favor, gracias a nosotros darle la bienvenida al señor Cloud Cummings, por favor.
We fight. We fight. We fight. Hello, all of you. Let's give better rock a round of applause. Thank you. How you doing? Hey, listen, I have some. Just 6 years ago, Alabama. 15 years ago, Houston and brother. From being on Bloody Sunday, trying to stop our right to vote. We're not going to allow that to happen here in the state of Texas. We're not going to do it. Those who marched on Bloody Sunday did not know if they would see the results of what they were marching. But let me tell you this, we don't have an Edmund Pettus Bridge, but we got a Texas Capitol. We don't have water and water hoses and do awful things to us. But we have legislators in there that are trying to take away our right to vote. We're not brothers. We're not going to let Martin Luther King. We're going to let all those march, shed blood, so we would have the right to vote. Beat them. If we're our right to vote. We're not going to do it. Because when we fight, we. When we fight, we. When we fight, we.
Hello, everyone. Matter. We are so excited about the work that we've been doing in Texas. A lot of what we do is focus on the Black community, but then also rural communities in Texas. We know that oftentimes rural communities do not get the love that they deserve, right? And as my generation embarks on our own journey towards expanding voting rights, it's necessary for us to reflect on where we've come from. Young folks my age and under must constantly remind ourselves that our political roots were born of hope, long before fear became our norm. Today I'm here to introduce one of our champions, someone who's been extremely vocal about the need to expand voting rights, especially for minority communities. He also understands the importance of pressuring corporate entities to hold themselves accountable for the power they hold and invest in elections. We desperately need leadership now more than ever. Please join me in welcoming Congressman Lloyd Doggett.
Thank you so much. Hello, Texas. Yes. Turn up voters. Turn. State legislators. They came to Washington last week and they turned the national focus on Texas and voter suppression. they sat down with Joe Manchin and they talked with him. And when they left, Joe Manchin for the first time came out with a new bill, a narrow bill that focuses on voter rights and stopping partisan gerrymandering. You know, it's not everything we want, but I was reminded of that Stone song. You can't always try sometimes get what you need. All we need is for Joe Manchin to now make an exception to the filibuster rule that has set us back so far. Because Mitch McConnell's immediate reaction was that he was against this too. Of course, he's part of a party that is soft on sedition, soft on violence, caught up in fantasies, and is against most everything. Wed not so much to a political party as a cult around a failed wannabe tyrant. And how about this governor? He is always about intimidating people. But you know who's intimidated? They're intimidated by you, by the thought that we would be empowered. And so if we continue to work together and register and organize and elect, no matter what the laws are, we can triumph for a better Texas. Let's never give up and never give in. Thank you.
I'm Evan Schelling. My pronouns are he, him, his, and I'm the executive director of the Transgender Education Network of Texas. We have worked tirelessly this last session to defeat anti-LGBTQ bills in this very building behind me. And within the state of Texas, we are Black, we are Indigenous, we are people of color, we are immigrants, we are voters, and we matter. This last session, the session before that, and the session before that, we have seen an unprecedented attack on transgender Texans. And I am proud to say the man I am about to introduce, Senator Royce West, was there with us. Every step of the fight that we have had, he has stood up for what is right. To my knowledge, he is the first senator to say on the Senate Senate floor, Black trans lives matter. Because he knows when all Texans are stronger, Texas is stronger.
Thank you. Hello, Texas! Texas Democrats! Look around. This is what America do. Happy Father's Day. Happy Juneteenth weekend. Be quiet. Blame us. We need to do what turn out the Democratic and the Independent base in order to take over this building. We're talking about it today, but when
to speak out against racist voter suppression. Because it is on our generation to finish the fight of those before us. We have a moral obligation. So I want I believe that we will win. 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 Thank you. Let's keep that energy going as we welcome my friends from the House Elections Committee, the Honorable Representative Michelle Beckley, John Busey, and Jessica Gonzalez. Thank you.
Wow, you guys, I am Representative Michelle Beckley, and I want to let you know that elections is a team sport. Yeah. And we may be the quarterbacks, but you are the rest of the team, and we can't do it without you. And how do I know we can win? Because I won in 2018 in Denton County. I am the first Democrat on my seat ever. So where and when we can flip Denton County, we can flip the entire state of Texas. But what we and I'm talking about my committee because we can't do it alone. We were the front lines. We built the last day. We stood down. That's how it is. Me, Jessica, you see. He's not here, but he's in when they wouldn't let Chairman Nicole Clark, she could speak, it disrupted, and then Beto couldn't talk because we won that night. And we just keep winning, and we're going to keep winning. And I think my time is up, so I'm going to let you guys go. What we need you to do is register voters, become a DVR, register in the rural areas. Everywhere, we need you registered. Thank you, and I'm going to introduce John Busey next.
How's everybody doing? Let me ask you a question. Can y'all see that house across the street? Look a hell of a lot better if it had a pro voting. I am so proud of the Elections Committee along Representative Gonzalez. We have fought hard every single day this session. It is a had to be on the Elections Committee, and thank you all for being appointed. 2011 was a success. And how did our Republican colleagues respond? They filed 65 voter suppression bills this session. That's more than Florida and Georgia and Arizona and North Carolina combined. Bill 7 had passed. SB 7 was an attack on souls to the polls. We told them that SB 7 would lower to overturn an election. They were for it anyway. They didn't know that was in the bill. As if last minute addition to the biggest voter suppression bill is somehow still warranted of their vote. We need you all to keep showing up. We've got amazing special guests. I want to say, when LBJ, he lamented that we would lose the South for a generation, but he did it anyway. Fight for voting rights and civil rights is never on the negotiating table. We must continue to fight. We must kill SB 7. We've done all. Now Congress must respond. We must pass the John Lewis Voting Rights Act and the For the People Act. Better keep showing up, keep fighting. Texas. Thank you all so much. Now let's hear from Representative Gonzalez.
Wow. I'm going to say that I'm a daddy's girl, and so I was feeling a little guilty because I couldn't spend the day with my dad, but I look out at this beautiful crowd. And that my dad, he knows how long I've been fighting. So we can't do this without you. We can't do our jobs without you. And for those of you who are here, those of you who are watching virtually, we can't do this without you. So stay in the fight with us. Now, what's clear about SB 7 is that it was built on lies.
That's right.
And it was built with the intent to discriminate against people of color, our senior citizens, and our disabled community. That was made very, very clear.
Yes.
Now, those of us in the elections committee, we silence. We that we were going to be protect, and that is exactly what we did. Every single week when we showed up to committee, the gains or the losses that the committee, we're proud of the effort, and we're going to be proud of each other. And so I'm very proud to serve with Michelle Busey and Art Fierro, who's not here today, and we're going to continue fighting for you on this bill, or when we get called back for a special session on this bill. You're in good hands, and you're in good hands with all the other members that have spoken here today. We're all in this fight together. And that's why we had to make a decision to kill this bill. And I'm proud of that. I'm proud of what we all did that day. And we'll continue to fight for you until we have a seat at the table. And so you heard that many of us went to DC last week to talk to Congress, talk to the Vice President Harris about the importance of having federal intervention. But we need you. We need every single one of you to join us in that fight, because we can't do this without you. We need you to pick up the phone, to call Congress members, to tell them how important it is before it's too late here in Texas. We need this to happen now. We need you to help us register voters, help educate voters. Future elections have consequences. I promise you, we all promise you, that we'll continue in this fight with you until the very end, and we'll get this done, because I know what it looks like when Texas stands together. And when next, I'll pass it over to Raven Douglas from the.
All right, let me hear you again. We still having a good time out there? All right. Now I am absolutely of a rights president, a true Texas president. Please join me in welcoming Lucy Baines Johnson.
But I know that deep there and especially applauding the Texas legislators who stood up for democracy. Deny the 56 years ago, I stood behind my father when he, in 1965, Voting Rights Act into law. Texans have stood up for social justice, and with your help, we'll do it again. Of you and the power of the people and Texas Civil Rights Project and the Voting Rights Project, all of which I've been a small but a very enthusiastic part of. And I just want you to recognize that there are lots of appreciate those voices for speaking up, but your voices, every single person's voice in this audience tonight, is the voice we need. Can
Hey y'all, my name is Raven Douglas and I'm in Texas. I just have a quick message for all of you today. I'm constantly being told that young voters, that black and brown voters, that we're apathetic, we don't care, and we don't care about our votes. And I'm here to tell everyone of color, We are here. We are ready to show up. We know that our votes matter, and we're not going back down. With that being said, without further ado, I would like to introduce my friend, voters, the former Congressman of El Paso.
This is what democracy. And this is what fighting for democracy feels like. It's loud, and it's no accident that we have for American democracy right here in Texas on the longest day of the year. It's going to take every waking moment from every single one of us to see this through. But I have confidence right here in the great state of Texas. The means of others. We did Reconstruction. We did it again in the 20th century with the all-white Democratic primary. We did it the poll tax, the literacy test. Many means are in the jar before I to register to vote. Done it ever since. And taking place twice as many as the next closest state. Most of them concentrated in the fastest growing black and brown neighborhoods of Texas. It is this state that has a voter ID law that says that you can prove who you are at the polling place with your license to carry a firearm, but you cannot prove who you are with your student ID at the University of Texas. And it is this state where voters, three judges, federal, Brown, you've been to diminish the would vote at all. Ladies and gentlemen, 7 million Texans did not vote in the election. Any lack of democracy and voting and participating in our elections is because this state has perfected the art of keeping their voices and uncounted. This state, with all of those, was already the toughest in America in which to vote and in which to register to vote. But on top of that, they introduced to prove your disability. If you came back from Afghanistan and service, we will no longer take your word for it. When you ask for an absentee mail-in ballot, we will make you prove it. It said that if you are black and you want to vote on Sunday morning in the Souls to the Polls program that your church has run every single election, you will no longer be able to do it. It said that if you go into a polling place, you will be open prey to partisan poll watchers who will be free to try to intimidate you without election judges being able to step in. And then there's this. The state of Texas said, we reserve the right to overturn any future election simply based on the allegation of fraud. Well, if Texas has produced all of this, Texas has also produced the answer and the solution. It was Dr. Lawrence Nixon and it was Lonnie Smith who defeated the all-white Democratic primary in 1944. It was President Lyndon Baines Johnson, the 36th President of the United States of America, who ended the first
the first generation of Jim Crow at the polling place by pushing through and then signing the Voting Rights Act of 1965. And through Lucy Baines, I want to thank him right now, through you, wherever he is up in heaven, looking down on his people here in Texas. That's who we produce when we stick together and when we fight the good fight. We produce people like Barbara Jordan, who said, all we ask is an America as good as its promise. And it is this state that produced none other than Ann Richards. Of our capital, ridiculous, because you know what she said? Let the people in. Today, we want to let the people in to their own democracy, to our democracy, that democracy that many have laid down their lives for. 77 years ago, men from this very state landed on the beaches of Normandy to fight fascism abroad and to protect democracy at home. As Reverend Waters said, it was 58 lost his life in Jackson, Mississippi for the crime of trying to register voters in Jackson, Mississippi. So this democracy that we have today, dearly purchased in the blood of our fellow Americans. And you have inherited their struggle. Today, these state legislators who walked out at the 11th hour because they would not be complicit in the destruction of this democracy. These state legislators here in Texas us some time. The question for us, what are we going to do with it? We're going to learn. Very rare ever falls to a generation into democracy of insurrection in the citadel of our democracy in the United States Capitol, where insurrectionists killing 5 people, including a capital against the biggest lies repeated over and over again, not just by the former president, but by his henchmen in the Congress, power and public trust, who persuaded 10 Americans the same against voter suppression, the one we described here in Texas. Other state legislatures right now. This say American democracy follow to us in this generation, and we should ask ourselves, what are we going to do? My hope, Texas, for millions who are with us in spirit, sentiment, and in the fight. And what we have, where we are, democracy. We're going to fight. We are going to rest until the right to vote is secured in America. This democracy represents each and every single one of us. I am confident if we stay committed, resolved, and most together, no force, no former president, no vice. There are 3 things that I ask you, because I understand that action is an antidote to despair, and it is the key to victory. We got to make sure that between now and the session will be called by our governor, that absolutely will have a dog shit elections bill on it, that every single one of us reaches out to our state representative, to our state senator, call them, email them, and
and see them in person. With our elections, our democracy, and then tell those brave men and women who are here with us now that you have their back for the distance, for as long, whatever they need to do to make sure that they make Texas proud. Y el segundo, number 2. What ails us at this moment? And it's the People Act. That, which is passed representatives, would be signed on the desk, is pending in the United States Senate. And in fact, they will take votes on it as Tuesday. Remove to the box and set up non-redistricting commissions. So don't choose us, it's the other way around. Corporate money in our politics and elections by elevating the power of citizens. It would create automatic and same-day voter registration. So as long as you're marching, keep walking over to your congressperson's office, to your U.S. Senator's office. Look, this is sedition and fleeing to the Hilton in Cancun when Texas starts to freeze. Make sure they hear about it and keep reaching out to reach the President of the United States, the most powerful person on the planet. If President Joe Biden makes this his singular focus, I believe we will have the Voting Rights Act of 2021, just like President Johnson delivered the Voting Rights Act of 1965. Y la última, the last one. This, ladies and gentlemen, this is our insurance policy. We're successful in suppression in the state of Texas. Let's say our best efforts of those 7 million that I described earlier who were eligible to cast a ballot in 2020, 2 million of them were not registered to vote. No matter what county you live in, you can go down to the election department for a vote. That's sworn in, become certified, and start registering people to vote. Register them till we get to all. Will you join me in committing to take these 3 steps for our democracy? Finish. Back to the great so they should support them to the very end. I know that we can win this, though it will not be, may not be over quick, certainly worth doing, and I cannot think of anything ever at this moment. So please,
way, this vote for us. In the spirit of Barbara Jordan, we are here tonight in the correct and Martin. tonight for ourselves. We're here tonight for democracy. Pick up the mantle and message that next day, and we've come one boy, Jim Crow 2.0 must 2.0. Final willing to stand who's for justice. Well, let's keep working, let's keep standing, let's keep fighting until justice flows like water and justice.
Can we get one more hand? Good evening. I'm so delighted to be here tonight to interview someone who's fighting for Texas families long before he became a dad himself. As mayor, he created universal pre-K for our neighbors in San Antonio. As most vulnerable Americans.
Hello, Texas! First of all, thank you very much, Mimi, for your kind words, but even more importantly, for your great work in protecting the civil rights and voting rights of every single Texan. Let's give her a great round of applause. By people for organizing this event. And to all of the organizers and the activists, let's give them a big round of applause for pushing back and fighting and raising their voice. I also want to thank all of to voter suppression during the session. Happy Father's Day, y'all. I'm lucky to be here today with my wife, Erica, and Karina, and our son, Christian, who is 6 years old. Like many of y'all, my family's history in this state goes back a long way. In fact, this year it's 99 years since the grandmother that I grew up with came here from Mexico. Did yours die too? And it is. When my grandmother got here from Mexico, you could still walk around downtown San Antonio and see signs on the storefront windows that said, "No Negroes, no Mexicans or dogs allowed." And because of the different backgrounds, people from throughout this state and throughout this country, many of whom Reverend Waters mentioned, because of that, 2 generations later, my brother can serve in the United States Congress. We have so much over the years. In the last 15 months of the pandemic, a lot of people also a renewed push for racial justice after all of this, that we're together, that we're going to rise or fall together as a people. And make it work for everyone. But instead of embracing that, people at a time when everybody should have health care. They're in the Supreme Court trying to take it away from our children. Need to learn the lessons of the past. Our future. People to learn the lessons of Martin Luther King Jr. At a time when our nation is declaring Juneteenth a national holiday, they want to scapegoat and divide. They can't even keep the power on. They can't even build an electric grid, but they want to build a wall that nobody needs in the state. And it's because they're so... We're going to show... We're going to support our legislators who do. We're going to support the great work of the organizations here. We're going to make... Change is coming to this, whether they like it or not. Thank you.
How's everyone doing? So my name's Roland. Our mission is more equitable for everyone. But exactly. So I'm asking you to call to our senators. Let's get a true champion. Here's Bob Kafka.
Thank you. Here. I'm representing Texas, also the Adaptive Texas. We have disability rights all national movement. With disabilities in the electoral process. You may not know it. In the United States, there are over 3 million. We believe it's a constitutional right. Campbell, we the people, was actually written for disability. Governor Morris from Philadelphia participated and drafted preamble. We the people. Is that why we're here? Are we not? For the last 3 elections, people with disabilities have polls and also in mail-in ballots. And what this is doing, Georgia, Florida, and all the other states are inhibiting not only people of color, low-income Texans, but people with disabilities and their families, and under the rubric Texas, which stands for register, educate, but importantly, and that is why we support legislation. So individual battles which we will fight will not be the only way. We need all tools, and we need power. Thank you.
Hijo, it's hot out here, but we're here. We're here. My name is Gloria Gonzalez. Is engagement organization of Texas. He's the president of the NAACP. He has a long history of black and brown voices. No representation of black and brown voices. Please help me have a nice Gary Bledsoe.
Texas is now at the center of a discussion in this nation. 150 some odd years ago, Texas was the very last state in the Union that continued to fight Northern troops to prevent the reunification of this country. There is something that's in the water here where we simply want to be different and don't want to treat minorities correct. You had to African Americans the right to vote after they had. So it's something that is appeal to the people of this state, and that is, if they are going to do it to me, they will do. They are trying to say my vote me into class citizen. Tomorrow, my friends, if you take away your right to have clean air, they'll take away your right to have the worship the religion of your choice. It doesn't stop, because if we don't stop it now, we will not have a democracy. Sadly, I look at the actions of our governor, and him defund the legislature was an act that is completely illegal and unconstitutional. The state constitution is clear. If people walk out like those courageous legislators that we need, we do a it's the legislature's prerogative to do something and not our legislature represent the people. They do represent the governor of this state. So, a threat to justice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. And justice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. And you know, in discussing what's actually the words of a wise person, a rabbi by name Neil Blumhoff. And Neil Blumhoff said, you know, my brother's problem is my problem. So I reach out to the people of Texas, and I say to you, but I need you to, because if they take rights today, indeed they're going to take something from you tomorrow to you. So Texans, brothers and sisters, we need you. Let's pass H.R. 4 with John Lewis voting right and make. Thank you very much.
Second,
organization with a mission to elect Texas women. Years ago, my grandfather, Marion Jack Brooks, stood right here at another rally, speaking out in favor of and so outraged that I have to stand right where he stood, asking our elected leaders to stay right without barriers. You go, girl! Of the 21st century. And SB7 is a naked attempt to rob us of our rightful power. I'm here today to introduce the law out on and communities will not be trusted. This is my honor today. Texas Black Legislature Nicole Representative Jasmine Crockett in a shirt y'all.
This past year, the COVID-19 pandemic put a spotlight on the deep digital divide in Texas. When schools closed to protect kids and staff from the coronavirus, they turned to online learning to educate the next generation. Businesses closed their offices and went fully remote, and restaurants turned to online orders to survive. But many families don't have reliable internet. Some don't even have internet at all. As we become an increasingly digital world, the need for reliable and affordable internet access has grown exponentially. HB5 creates the Broadband Development Office, which will work to fix the inequalities and the infrastructure. They'll work with the federal government to better identify which areas of Texas need the most help and direct funding toward expanding access across Texas. Almost 8 million Texans don't have access to the internet, either from a lack of infrastructure or simply being unable to afford it. Much of rural Texas is left unconnected. But it's not just an issue facing rural Texans. In Harris County, almost 200,000 households don't have internet access. In fact, 4 of the 5 least connected cities in the entire country are in Texas. You're able to watch this video because you have an internet connection. You can just as easily switch tabs or apps and book your vaccination appointment, order food deliveries, support small businesses, keep in touch with family and friends, keep up with the news, and you can even check your voter registration at registeredtexas.com. The potential and access the internet affords us is limitless, and it's becoming a necessity. We need HB5 to address the lack of infrastructure and affordability so all Texans have internet access and nobody is left disconnected and disadvantaged.
This month, we celebrate Pride. We celebrate the freedom to be ourselves and the people who fought to get us to where we are today. People like Glenn Maxey, the first openly gay state legislator in Texas who has spent his whole life fighting for the rights of all Texans. People like our representatives in the Texas Legislature's LGBTQ caucus, who bring our voices to the table and fight bills targeting LGBTQ Texans. People like the activists who fought to defeat the disgusting bills targeting trans children and are fighting for a future where our trans children can be affirmed in their gender identities and live without fear. But as long as Texas Republicans remain in power, our rights will be in danger. If we get registered, if we show up at the polls, our vote has the power to change the course of Texas politics. While there will still be fights ahead, if we stand together, we can elect good people who will stand with us. We are here, we have a voice, and we have the power to create a better future for everyone.
Important issues. So you led the Texas Democrats in a walkout of the State House to block these voting restrictions. This is one of the most far-reaching voter suppression bills in the country. Tell us about the danger to your state, but this has nationwide repercussions, ramifications.
Well, it wasn't me that led the House Democrats. It was the House Democrats that decided that they had enough of the sham legislative process that was going on Sunday night. They had been given a 70-page bill after the conference committee reported it out without having any Democratic input into the bill. None of the members of the conference committee that were Democrats were allowed to participate in discussions and the putting together of this Frankenstein bill is what we call. And then they laid it on the House. Before there could be any debate, they restricted debate by a vote of the Republicans in the House, and they were going to shove it down the throats of the people in Texas. Our people tried to debate, to try to argue that this is a racist bill, discriminatory against Mexican Americans, African Americans, Asian Americans, people of color in general, and they wouldn't have any part of it. So rather than participate in this abuse of the legislative process that the Republicans were engaged in, they walked out. They walked out spontaneously. And they walked to an African-American church close by there in Austin, Texas, and let the people know what was going on in the Texas legislature. This is the most horrendous voter suppression bill in the United States today, in a state where we already have, where it is already the most difficult place in the country to vote today. And the Republican Party did it because of not just the big lie that Mr. Trump has been propagating all over the country, but also because they understand that they cannot hold on to power as long as people of color are beginning to vote. We had a 30% increase in voter turnout this last election. We went from almost 10 percentage point margin in the presidential election to 5 percentage points. This is happening every election cycle. It gets to a point where the Republicans are losing control. And the only way that they feel that they can hold on to control is not by good policies and good laws that help the families in the state of Texas, but by preventing working people of color from going out to vote. And it's shameful.